Today I'm going to be talking about this book, The Tao of Jeet Kune. So yes, the Tao is Tao. That's how you say it. So it's The Tao of Jeet Kune, written by Bruce Lee. This book's pretty old. It's the story is that Bruce Lee had a back injury in 1970. And he spent about 6 months, pretty much most of that time, on his back. And he was a pretty energetic guy, and he kept thinking about martial arts, and it was really bothering him to sit still. So at that time, that was the time when he kind of took most of these notes anyway for the book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do. He wanted to publish the book. He wanted to collect it and get it together and make a book out of it in 1971. But some of his martial arts filming at the time had taken him away from all of that, and it was never done. And then sadly, he passed away tragically in 1973. So the book never was published at that time. And then his widowed wife, Linda Lee, published the book, and it was compiled and published in 1975 after his death. So it's a lot of notes. It's a collection of notes. There's a lot of little notes in here written by Bruce Lee and compiled into categories. There are pictures. There's some pages of pictures that actually Bruce Lee actually drew himself. You can see of some boxing techniques, various other things too, but kind of a neat little thing. So it's got a lot of stances, kicks, things like that he drew that were put in here. The book's broken up into different sections. It's got some philosophy in it. It's got what he calls preliminaries, which are things like stances and guards, target areas, things like that. He's got a section on qualities, which are like power and speed and attitude, tools like kicking, striking, grappling, and he shows pictures of how to do certain moves like that. He's got preparations, a section on preparations, which are things like feints and parries and things like that. Mobility, he's got a section on mobility, which is like distance and footwork and evasions. And he's got a section on attacking and different ways you can attack and times to attack and things like that. It's kind of a classic book, and it really, at a time when techniques are just the primary thing, and there are talk of techniques in here and how to do them, but there's a lot of philosophy behind all of this too, and kind of get you into the mind of Bruce Lee and the way he thought about things, especially at a time in the in the 60s and real early 70s, when things were very different at that time. Styles were pretty much isolated. People didn't cross-train much, so if at all. So it was kind of a change in times, and this book gives you kind of a perspective on his thoughts at that time. I just thought I'd read the last couple quotes out of here because it was pretty interesting. The first one says, these are the last two in the book. It says, learning Jeet Kune Do is not a matter seeking knowledge or accumulating stylized pattern, but is discovering the cause of ignorance. And again, Jeet Kune Do is kind of the system, I guess, that Bruce Lee put together. I think they call it now like Jun Fan, Jeet Kune Do, JKD, things like that. So it's his philosophy, and some of it's like his techniques that he used. And there's, different perspectives on that and how to do that today. And the last quote that he wrote, the last thing in the book, it says, if people say Jeet Kune Do is different from this or from that, then let the name of Jeet Kune Do be wiped out. For that is what it is, just a name. Please don't fuss over it. So he never wanted people to just say like, oh, get on the Jeet Kune Do bandwagon because Bruce Lee was attached to it. It's this concept of what works, and that's the primary thing, and just kind of gaining knowledge. So this is a classic book that's almost 50 years old, Well, really, when he wrote it, it's over 50 years old. But it was released in 1975. So it's a classic book, and I think if you're a martial artist that's interested in history, you kind of owe it to yourself to read this book. So, Tao of Jeet Kune Do by Bruce Lee. Hopefully that was a helpful little review, and you'll pick it up and gain some knowledge from it. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll keep some more reviews coming out.